Hello and welcome to the PAO Fans International podcast. This is the American crew back again. I'm here with Alex and Alki. Alki, how are you doing today, bro?
I'm doing all right, all things considered, Adoni. How you guys doing?
Doing good, man. How are you doing, Alex?
All good.
Nice, nice. Well, hey, that's good to hear. All things considered, right? Panathinaikos has been kind of up and down lately with our football club, even the basketball club a little bit. We're gonna start things off like we always do, talking about the football club. Panathinaikos, today we're going to be talking about two of the matches that we recently had. We had the match against Kifisia for the cup game, where we ended up winning that game 1-0. All things considered, that game was not the most entertaining. It was a heavily rotated squad. We got to see some of the youngsters play, which was a nice positive. Panathinaikos ended up coming away with a 1-0 win, thanks to a penalty. I believe Bakasetas was the one that scored that. We've gotten to a point where like penalties give me anxiety because we saw Swiderski's like hoofed a couple of them now. And so seeing Bakasetas actually score the penalty was a nice relief. Um, Really, for me, the big takeaway from the game was just kind of seeing the youngsters playing a little bit. Bregu, I think, for me, needs a little bit more development. I think he got closed down a lot and he got out muscled in the midfield. Um, and then I think is it Bocos was the one that was playing on the wing. That kid looks like he's got some potential. I just think that he still needs to obviously mature his game a little bit and grow. But it was nice seeing those youngsters. And then Kotsadius was nice to see in goal as well, even though he didn't have too much to deal with. Um, I'll kind of start this off with you, Alex. How'd you see the game?
Uh, I think the thing that stood out to me, like you just said, was the youngsters featuring. I think with most of our previous coaches, it's been even in these kind of like rotation games, it's been hard to come by these youngsters. I don't think we've ever in recent years, past 5 years, we've seen this many be featured at the same time in the same game, stuff like that. So it was refreshing. Again, regardless of if they, some performed better. Like you said, I think Bogos was one of the brighter spots. So yeah, some performed better, some performed worse, but just to see them on the pitch at this extent, in this extent, was really, really nice and refreshing. And I think kind of going off of the things that we've been saying in recent weeks, ourselves, the Australian crew, just kind of the direction that the club is heading, a more explicit attempt at, getting the academy going, getting the youth more involved, just thinking more of the future rather than um, being stuck in the current.
Yeah, I like that. I like that summary, Alex. Couldn't agree more with you there. Alki, how'd you see it?
Yeah, I mean, kind of echo the same thoughts. From it was kind of a unflattering day to watch, just because the game ended up just 1-0 based on a penalty. Bright spots, like we always said, the young guys. Bogle was, I think, unless I'm mistaken, I think he's the one that he kind of showed a couple glimpses where he pressed towards the end and got down and got a couple of the foul calls. I think he was part of the build up leading to that what ended up being a penalty. But yeah, overall, just I didn't expect too much. Heavy rotation was nice to see, and we still got the win. Just you know, kind of goes hand in hand with you've got a lot of young, inexperienced guys that are out there. So I wasn't expecting us to really blow them out of the water, but it would have been nice to see a little bit more goal involvement or shots on target, just in general. But you know, win's a win. Move on in the cup. That's all that matters at this point.
Yeah, 100%. I think the one thing that I did see from fans is that us not capitalizing and scoring more goals because I think that kind of affects our seeding for the next round if I have that right. I don't really this new format with the cup is a little confusing for me. I saw something to where if PAOK beat Aris, they were going to either be seeded against us or Levadiakos or something like that. And then if we had scored more goals, it would have been better for us. So I did see some, some complaints about the 1-0, but I mean, at the end of the day, we got the win, and you eventually have to play whoever's going to be in front of you. So we'll kind of delve into some things a little bit more. But let's talk about the IL game, which is I think the game that's kind of been on everybody's minds since it just happened yesterday. IL Panathinaikos ended 2-2. IL ended up going up 1-0 first on the score sheet off of a Mladenovic mistake. He tried to dribble the ball, lost possession. IL capitalized off that and scored. Um, pretty rough goal to give up there. Panathinaikos equalized with Calabria, nice header from him, and then actually ended up taking a 2-1 lead with another Bacacetas penalty. Unfortunately, Panathinaikos couldn't capitalize. Tete had a good chance to put the game away and ice it at 3-1. He had Dessers open for a tap in. Didn't opt to take that option. He went to shoot it and he just weakly shot it at the keeper. And then, of course, almost like in playing FC 25 or something, we gave up a penalty at the end, just like last time against Ike. We gave away a penalty to make the game 2-2 again off of a Mladenovic mistake. Just a frustrating result overall. To me, the way I see it is this team just has way too many mental lapses in it. Last week's perfect example against Ike. I mean, you give away two penalties that way. You give away three goals that were all off of your own mistakes defensively. To me, I mean, that's just unacceptable. That comes down to just weak mentality and not knowing, how to capitalize on chances when you have them in front of goal, and then of course letting your defense just allow goals in. So frustrating overall. Um, Alki, I kind of wanted to get your thoughts on this. How'd you see the game?
I mean, you kind of summarized it perfectly. I think this just, I don't know how many times we can talk about it time and time, season after season, but just like these mental lapses, especially in key moments or games that matter. I mean, every game matters, but especially for something, after the okay result versus Gifisia and then the Ike game, just, allowing, I mean, the game's all about, half of it's just capitalizing on mistakes, and the other half is playing good football. But, you know, Maldenovic to be the fault for both goals, just kind of, and I hate to say it against him because, he's been such a like warrior for us and playing lots of minutes. And yeah, he's not the greatest. We complain about his crossing and stuff and his lack of awareness on defense, but just, you've got the game in hand. Last play, there's just no excuse for him to be holding on to that jersey. And we saw it even from the start before the ball was even kicked, just just a poor judgment, poor mistake, however you want to put it. That just it shouldn't be happening at this level, especially for a guy who's seasoned like him. The Tete thing, I mean, I wouldn't say on a platter, but that wasn't even the only time. He shot it right at the keeper. There were a couple times he was one on one, and he tried to cross it into Desser's a couple plays before then got us a corner when he could have just gone for goal. And then that time he went for goal instead of passing it. Just again, these kind of mental mistakes, and it's kind of I guess goes hand in hand with like that's the level of our league, or at least the players we can attract. These guys are all in a sense has-beens and trying to reinvigorate their career a little bit. That they especially being such a highly touted like wonder kid a few years back. Um, but then you kind of see why they're in Greece and not playing for much bigger clubs. I don't know. It's frustrating just because I'd say overall we didn't play amazing, but we didn't play bad, I would say. But it just goes back to again, just like the Ike game, like we beat ourselves. It's not like the other team beat us. We let them beat us because of mistakes we made. We let them have this game, and it's just it's frustrating.
100%. Well said, Alki. Alex, what do you got to say?
Yeah, I mean the game was not good. I don't think the game was good. Not only because of what happened in the last minute, but I mean we struggled against the team that's second bottom, right? Um, They have three more points than the bottom team. Obviously, newcomers to the division, team that has history, but they didn't play. They didn't put anything special up, but they did have 10 shots, right? So we struggled both conceding and going forward on both sides of the ball against a team that obviously we there's no reason to struggle against. Um, and obviously that was just capitalized by what happened with Mladenovic in the last minute, which he takes full blame for that. There's very few moments in soccer and football where he's 100% responsible, but that was a moment that this guy is 100% responsible. We had a couple of those moments against Ajax too. So it feels doubly as bad because it's just now 2 weeks in a row that this has happened. But overall is not good. And I don't think, just to I don't want to go back and forth, but I think they're connected. I don't think QVCL was good either midweek, and that's going to get talked about a lot less because we actually got the 3 points there. We didn't lose any ground in the cup. But listen, the broad strokes are the same. Against QVCL, we relied on a goal on a penalty to get the 3 points. Even if we had won this one 2-1, by the way, and I know Tete this, Tete that, even if we had won 2-1, the deciding goal was a penalty, you know? And I'm not sometimes you need those. Like it happens. It's the game, but that would have been two games in a week. So two games in 4 or 5 days that we needed the penalty to decide the game against a mid-table team. QVC has 1 point behind us in the league table, and Larissa is second bottom. So, if you need the penalty to decide some games, fine. But against those kinds of opponents, that's pretty concerning, and I think that's kind of what we saw over 180 minutes in those games.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I'm glad that you brought that up because it's like we're seeing the pattern repeat itself again, right? Like every time we're on the podcast, it's like we bring this up. We saw an issue with Condi under Condi, right? The team was struggling to score goals, right? It's like he first came in, we explode, score four against Young Boys, I think it was. Then the following games, all of a sudden we start struggling to score, right? We have to score off a set piece or maybe off of a penalty. Same thing under Rui. Once we started the season off, it's like we struggled to score with Rafa, it's like the team got that like mental boost and they were scoring goals and things were fine. And then now it's like the last couple games. I mean, you can actually go back to even to Ike. I mean, it's like we just suddenly forget how to score. Yeah, that game, was 3-2 in the end, but it's like we struggled and weren't really creative going forward either. We've had to rely on a penalty against Kifisia last week. And then we had to rely on a penalty again yesterday. We've got Tete missing shots, right? One-on-one chances. Um, it's just again, to me, it all comes down to people want to blame coaches, people want to blame whatever, but it's like it's the players on the pitch, right? Just like on basketball, the GM or the coach is not the one missing the wide open shots. It's the same thing on the pitch. The technical director or the owner is not the one that's missing wide open shots, giving away penalties, missing penalties. Again, something needs to change. And the unfortunate thing is we can't really we can't fully afford to have patience, but we kind of have to have patience because this is our predicament. We need a European spot, right? We're out of the league, forget it, right? The cup we pretty much have to win. Europa, I can't see us really doing anything in Europa the way that this team is. So
It
it's
doesn't
like
even matter for European placement. Like you only if you win. So,
exactly, and
you
we're not,
know,
yeah, we know we're not going to win the European title. So at this point, it's like we have to put all of our eggs into the cup, but also at the same time, it's like we're in three competitions, we don't have depth. We're gonna lose like 3-4 players to AFCON next month, I think it is, right in January.
yeah.
It's like I don't know. I'm seeing a whole bunch of complaining about Rafa Benitez over two results, when in reality, look at the situation that we're in. I could say Pep Guardiola would be here and he would be struggling. So it's just frustrating, man. It's frustrating seeing the same thing again and again. I mentioned it in conversation with you guys. Like I just mentally prepared myself when we fired Rui that this season was going to be a disaster. But it's still frustrating to see as a fan, just kind of like the stupidity on the pitch.
I'm going to use this opportunity to go on a little bit of a rant because I think it's a good segue from what you're just saying. Um, this is what I said when I think it was the first pod that we did after Rafa was appointed. So the first one, the very first one, the Australians did. So we were like a week removed from the appointment, maybe 10 days. And I said this, and I still believe it. And I think this is what we're seeing now. You could bring anyone, right? You could bring anyone to manage this team, and we're seeing the repeat over and over again. And some people are going to say it's the owner Alafuso. He's the one constant. Other people are going to say other things, technical director and other times, whatever. But for me, you bring the coach who's going to be able to solve the issues that we have against defending, against attacking against these low block teams, because now that is how 75% of the Greek league plays. If you take any team outside of the top five, and we know who the top five is, almost every one of those other, you know, nine teams, 10 teams, whatever, plays this low block. So Larissa did it. Volos does it. Kifisiat does it. They do it. Whatever. The coach that can is going to be successful, more successful than the last, and the last, and the last is going to be the one who could actually solve how to play against these teams, because that's where we drop points year after year after year, and everybody felt susceptible to it. Tareem, Rui, at one point or another, maybe they start off well, this and that, but eventually they face these low block teams, which are again 75% of the teams in the league, and you end up dropping points. So we can point fingers at Rui, say he's not good, he's not that. The last guy dropped points too against a team like this, and so did the previous guy. They all fall susceptible to the same thing, and I'm seeing it over and over and over again. And that's not me defending Rafa, and that's not me bashing him. That's just I'm just seeing the reality of it, and that's how I see it. Whether it's Rafa, Tareem, even Yova, Yova, he was with us for 3 years. For a good part of those 3 years, he also fell susceptible to these low block teams. The only exception under Yova was in that that really successful season where obviously we dropped the 11 points, but ultimately that was the least susceptible he was to these low block opponents. But as it goes on, it's just more and more of the same with these low block opponents. And the next successful coach, whether it's Rafa or the next guy, is going to have to solve the problem with the low block opponents.
I mean, yeah, listen, the honeymoon phase with Rafa's over. Like at this point, we're into like what the team is going to look like. I think he started off well, like we all said. Um, but at the end of the day, he still inherited the same team that Rui had, Tareem with a few adjustments, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And like Alex pointed out, it's the same stuff. I think, like we said, the penalties, they just weren't flattering games. Where in the past, there were games that we got that were decided by penalties, and we got caught all the flack online. Like, oh, we always complain about penalties. Now we're winning because of penalties. But I think in those games, even 2 or 3 seasons ago when that was happening, is it was deserving in a sense because the team played well. And it's like we're being given a bone some way. Whereas now it's like we're just happy to win the game because the penalty came and we played like shit. I think, like I said, the honeymoon phase is over, but I think reality is like what Alex mentioned, and the fact is like we're gonna really have to see what Rafa is about. I mean, I joked about it a lot, like I think he's gonna take us places, and for a minute there it looked like it, but realistically, the guy has a great half a resume, and the other half is not so great. The guy hadn't coached anywhere in what, a year and a half or two. His last half a decade or so hasn't been great. So the appointment was kind of like we're hiring him because of a name. We got on this flow going, but we still have the same guys. The same problems exist, and it's the same problems. Is it down to stylistic, like Alex said, with coaching, or Adoni? You can bring in Pep, but if we've gone through 3 or 4 different coaches all playing kind of a very different style, for if we have to really break it down, and we're just getting the same results, it really just shows it comes down to the players. Yeah, we've got different players in different positions. We've got Swiderski at the top and Dessers, and now we've got Tete and Zaruri. where in the past we've had like Mancini's and Fortis and things like that. We've had different midfield, but I think stylistically we still have the same type of players coming in, and it's just not proving anything. And ultimately, it's just going to come down to I think it's just the culture around the club as a whole has just kind of been like this for so long that it's going to take. I don't. I guess I shouldn't say it's going to take. I don't know what it's going to take, but something's got to give to get them out of this rut of just this complacency or these just mental lapse of being stuck. Um, like we've got what 3 games in a row now since Ike, the Cup game, and this last league game of just really subpar, mediocre at best performances.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's what the team is. That's what the team has been. Rui didn't just lose his job because he was a shit coach. I mean, part of it was that. But part of it was like he got handed the same team that wasn't that great and he couldn't turn it around. Goldie couldn't really do it long enough. Rafa's slowly turning into that 3 bad results in a row. I mean, the pattern is there.
Yeah.
You can only point the finger so much, so for so long until somebody takes some accountability and just does something, you know?
And I was having this conversation I think with Nick. The thing is, Rafa's in this situation where a lot of these coaches find it, but he's in this situation where, like I mentioned earlier, he's kind of in this middle ground where we can't afford to not prioritize like getting a European place, but at the same time, he's also having to clean up the mess that Papa Dimitriou made, where he signs a Taborda who we barely see. We signed Dessers who, credit to him, or not his fault, but he got injured like a game in, right? We have like our replacement for Maximovic was Renato Sanchez, who's always injured as well. Like we're gonna lose 4 of our players to AFCON, like I mentioned earlier. And on top of that, the team just already has had, like I mentioned earlier, these mentality problems. So he's having to navigate now that that honeymoon phase is over. He's having to navigate the thin squad, the poor squad selections that we did for the signings in the summer. And then he's also trying to navigate us probably having to prioritize one of the competitions that we're in, right? With Panathinaikos, it needs to be competitive, but at the same time, we're not winning Europa League. We're not going to win the league. We have to put all our eggs into the basket for the Greek Cup. But again, we have holes in the roster. So it's one of those situations where I think for once, maybe because he has such a huge like payout if we do fire him, I think it was like 9 million. I think Foos is gonna have to stick with Rafa. Not saying that we're saying he's gonna get fired or anything, but we're not gonna be able to fully judge him until next season. I feel once he actually has a couple windows under his belt, he's able to build the team that he wants with Corona and Baldini in charge. Because right now he's inherited a mess from like a prior technical director, a prior coach, a couple prior coaches, and it's kind of like this is the predicament we're in. And yeah, I can keep going, but Alex, did you want to
I-
say anything? I don't want to hog up the mic.
Listen, we said the same thing about Rui. Just to be fair to ourselves, the fans, everyone, like we said the same thing about Rui that he's going to be judged the following season, right? Because he came around this time when Alonso was sacked. He inherited Alonso's mess. We weren't going to judge him in the winter because we all know that the winter window is a minor window. It's a patchwork window, so you can't fully judge um, there. So we definitely, I'm sure someone can go back and find the episodes that we said that because we definitely did, and I stand by that, right? Like I don't think we said anything wrong, but we said Rui was going to be judged the following season. That's this season. Guess what? No Rui. Um, so what's different now? What's different now? We're saying the same thing about the next guy. Can't judge Rafa now. We'll judge him next season when he's had the summer. What's different? Because it's just the Rui situation all over again. And just to answer my own question, what's different is what you also said, Adoni, is the other pieces that are in play here: the technical director, the direction of the club. I'm talking specifically about Cozzolis and Corona and Baldini. the other pieces, because it's not just the coach, it's the complementary pieces to the coach also. And I think that is the key difference between, where Rui was and where he was when he came and where he was when he left, and where Rafa is when he came and hopefully when he won't leave.
I think the biggest issue here is going to be how much time is any of this going to be afforded? Because realistically, what we're looking at right now is you'll hear this a lot in basketball. I don't know, Adoni or you, Alex, but like we hear it all the time in the Warrior space, for example, the two timeline thing, and that's what's happening right now. Like you guys touched on that, Rafa's inheriting a team that is essentially requiring a rebuild from top to bottom, including personnel and technical director and all that, but also player wise. He's got to afford a rebuild, but also keep the ship steady to still qualify for Europe or put all your eggs in the basket for the cup or whatever. And it goes back to the same conversation we have all over and over and over. Regardless of what his payout is Rafa going to be afforded that time to actually build? We can look back at like Olympiacos, for example. They went through a phase like this, but they went through full rebuild. But at the same time, Marinakis just dumped a shit ton of money on them to be able to afford to still stay relevant in the league and win it, so they can qualify for next year and keep bringing in money while they rebuild all the other pieces and bring in and spend. He spent a lot of money on a lot of players and still does. And with all the changes happening, it looks like Fuzos, especially with his interview, it seems like because they're becoming profitable, he's going to be able to invest in that. But again, this is just how many times have you heard this? Um, and heard the same thing about like the two timeline thing in most sports. Just there's a reason why it's a talked about thing is because it's just not a feasible thing. It doesn't happen, and if it does, it's not very often. So it's like they have to figure out which focus. Are they going to afford not Rui, Rafa enough time to rebuild so that way they can push for maybe a better next season? Because like we said, this season it's chalked up. You still gotta, hope for the cup, but or is it you gotta still win and slowly rebuild? Like how many times are we gonna slowly rebuild? There's always this overlap, and this overlap is just staying content with just mediocrity.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough too. It tough. And it kind of aligns with what Alex was saying as well. Like the difference is now that we hopefully have some people that are capable to actually aid the coach. Because I think prior, like with Rui, there was clearly a disconnect between, coach and technical director. And so technical director overlooked what the coach wanted. Now it looks like Rafa is going to be kind of in tune with Corona, who's also going to be in tune with, you know, um, Baldini. So we'll see. We'll see. That's the only thing that where I'm feeling a little more optimistic this time around. Love him or hate him, Rafa still at least does have somewhat of a successful record, albeit again, like you mentioned. Um, so that way, we'll see. We'll see going forward. I don't want to put too much pressure on Rafa already, but I was seeing some fans already talking about it online, and I'm like, I don't know. I think it's too soon to be seeing Panathinaikos fans on Twitter going in.
Well, let me ask you this, and we've kind of touched on it a little bit, but just to kind of put a title under it, we're halfway through the league season, right? So we've played 12 games, but the rest of the guys have played 13, so it's technically the halfway point. We sit sixth, I think. Yeah, we sit sixth, well behind, obviously. Olympiacos is in first. Top three have 34, 32, and 31 points. We have 19. If we win our game in hand, we have 22. So we're 12 points away from first. We should really be talking about fourth. So Levadiakos is fourth on 22. Volos is fifth on 22. Again, say we win our game in hand, we're even on points with those two. That's the 4, 5, 6 spots. So what's your mid-season review, kind of, I guess is my question to you guys, at least regular season.
Mid-season review is in just what have I taken of it? What's happened so far?
What have you taken from it? What do you expect from the league in the next 13, 14 games? Um, yeah.
I mean, I think this season itself is kind of just a mixed bag. We've seen, you know, great glimpses of players, for example, like Dede shine under Rafa when he first came, and then we are talking about him today of just he's been mediocre and missed some sitters that cost us. The coaching change, the mystery injuries, the Fuzos announcement, the change in upper personnel, the poor squad planning. I think we mentioned it in the chat. Like, imagine we had kept Unahi, that would have been a fourth or fifth guy we'd be losing to AFCON. Um, it's just it's a lot to unpack. It's like a giant tangled mess, and I think we just don't know where to start. Or at least for me on the review, the season for me, I mean, I think the ultimate goal is still make top four, but I think really because seating does matter placement, but at this point, you're still fighting for four, five, and six, like you said, Alex, where the cup is kind of your better hope. Um, and ultimately, for me, like I want to see Panathinaikos just like everyone else. We want to see them play in the highest competitions, be the best they can, but I think they really need to just focus on Rafa and get him the resources, as in players, and just let him create something. Um, and that's all I'll care about realistically. My expectations aren't really that high for placement in the league. I would hope we can make it at least to the final for the cup and just try to stay consistent in Europe. But again, everything like expectation wise is still kind of a mixed bag for me because it's like I kind of don't know which direction to really want them to go in.
Right. Um, yeah, Donnie, we're talking about just mid-season review and because it's technically the halfway of the season, the regular season. We've played 12, others have played 13 games. So just kind of looking at, back, what's happened, forward expectations.
Yeah, it's tough because like we must have mentioned this, I think, on the podcast, like at the end of last season, where we were saying like around this time we would have had like a new coach or something like that, which is typical. It seems like it every time we're on the podcast every year. Um, my mid-season review, unfortunately, of course, we fired the coach to start off the season. Fantastic. Then we ended up, signing Rafa Benitez, who I will be honest, at first I'm like, I don't think this was the right move. But we had 6 or 7 games where things looked a lot more promising and positive, and now we've had a couple of bad performances in a row. I'd say I'm probably an idiot, but I'm optimistic just because of like what we have in place for once. But again, come this time next year, maybe I'll be having the same conversation yet again. It feels like a broken record, but at this point, things aren't looking good for this season. But going into the next season, I have hope that things will be good. So this year, again, we're not going to win the league. We're not going to win Europa League, of course. So the cup is possible, but it just all depends on us kind of reinforcing the squad a little bit in winter, which again is going to be a bit of a challenge. So I don't know. I'm going to be
Yeah.
cautiously optimistic going forward, I guess.
I think you guys said, and we covered well what's going on, what's happened already. I think I'm just going to focus on going forward. And I think we have the following goals, like you both kind of said. Basically, we have two options. But first of all, let me say, I think the most important thing from now is the European ticket, right? Our European placement for next season. That is essentially all we're playing this for the rest of the season. And I don't want to dumb it down too much because we still have many months to go. But a good run in Europa League would be nice, but that's not going to do anything for the next season other than obviously coefficient points. I'm talking about where's Panathinaikos going to start the European campaign next season, and basically we have two paths. It's fourth and fifth, I believe, offer the same exact ticket, if I'm not mistaken. So obviously now we have the new playoff format, which is only 1 through 4, and then we have the 5 through 8 playoff. I believe 4 in the first tier playoff and 5 in the second tier playoff. I think offer the same ticket. if there's a difference, it might be in which round of conference league you start. That might be the only difference. For general speak, it's still conference league qualifying fourth and fifth. And then that's let's consider that one path, and it's essentially the same. And then the second path, like you guys were saying, is the cup. The cup offers Europa League qualifying, which obviously is better than Conference League qualifying, not because of the higher campaign, higher higher league, sorry, but because of the more buffer to fall down if you don't get through one qualifying round. You have some breathing room, in other words. Um, but that's where our focus needs to be now because losing European football for a year could be detrimental. We did so much work to build up the coefficient. We started at 5,000 coefficient. Now we're over, I think, 15,000 just from a couple seasons of decent European football. So to lose a whole season would be detrimental. We're just going to fall back down, not all the way to 5,000 because it's a 5-year coefficient, but you know, we're going to go back down and we just need to keep it building, 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 building. So, we could get up to where the other Greek teams are, like PAOK and Olympiacos are like 40, 50,000 or something. Years ago we were at those numbers because of year after year good European football. So that is obviously the most important thing.
Nice. Good breakdown there, Alex. I always get kind of confused about how they do the seeding and how they do the playoffs and everything like that. So it's nice kind of getting that breakdown. Yeah, so here's hoping, there's a lot on the line for our club just going forward and how important European football is going to be. So of course, hopefully, those that are in charge of the club know that, and they'll start prioritizing where they need to prioritize in terms of competitions. Um, I want to shift gears a little bit, still FC stuff. We had a video come out about the stadium, the new stadium being built, Botanicos. And interestingly enough, it's the first time the club has really shown like some video and really, besides the Alafusos interview, actually like acknowledge the stadium being built or currently constructed. The video featured, of course, Panathinaikos legend Andonis Andoniadis in it. And it was cool. It was nice to see. I saw it pop up on Instagram in the morning when it was posted. And I don't know. That's part of tying back to what we talked about earlier, why I'm a little bit more optimistic. There's actually some changes being made at the club. A new stadium, of course, will do us wonders, in my opinion. Um, I don't know. How'd you guys see the video? What are your thoughts on the video, Alki?
Yeah, I mean, like you mentioned, it's the first time we're getting something. We've heard for years and years and years it's going to happen. It's going to happen. Permits or this, that, something's delaying it, but them to make like an official announcement is huge. Bringing that social media presence, tying in legends of our club to be able to speak on most of the video and to actually have them, on site to see it. It just comes full circle. It's a nice thing. I think Alex, you mentioned it's going to be a little mini series, which is great. Again, back to social media presence for marketing, but it just kind of gives hope for, like we said, for the future. Ties into Alafuzos' interview, um, but you know, we've got to be able to, sustain the club and play well to be able to fill up the stadium because we've seen in a lot of games fans not want to show up. And it just kind of worries me for the future. If we see empty seats, we've seen Alafouzos, if he's not getting the support, it just becomes a spiral. But I don't want to bring too much negative on something that's supposed to be positive and something to look forward to. But it is nice to see that they're putting something out there.
Alex?
Yeah, I thought it was really nice, short and sweet. I highly recommend going to watch it. It's just like 3.5 minutes on YouTube. And just like you guys said, having Adoniadis, Opsilos, legend of the club, kind of share his own memories of the club. Felt very, even though we didn't live it, felt very. nostalgic. You could feel, the passion, his passion as he was talking, um, saying stuff like, he hopes God keeps him healthy so he could see the stadium himself. Just really like goosebumps for the whole 3.5 minutes and longer. It was just really, really nice. So that's about the content of it. And the bigger idea is, yeah, good thing for the club to do, like you guys said. First time that we've had, like, officially coming from the club, info, images, this kind of stuff. It's up until now, it's all been like rumors, and it's been, kind of fans going to the site, taking pictures of like what's going on or what's not going on. We got a little glimpse of it during the Alafuso interview too, like you guys mentioned, but that wasn't like, technically officially coming for the club. That was as kind of just like background footage. So yeah, it's good to have it directly from the club, not just being rumors. It's good that they're kind of making this a regular thing too, because it shows a level of seriousness and um, just kind of stability that we're not used to seeing in Greek run things. So again, whether you agree that it's going to happen in 2027 or not, because that's what Alafuso said in the interview the other week. Whether you agree with that or not, obviously we have reasons to be skeptical about it, given that it's Greece. It's just good to see that they're, being serious about the forthcomingness of the info and the visuals.
Yeah, well said. Well said, both of you guys. While you guys were talking about that and mentioning like Antoniadis and everything, I saw somebody mention on Twitter there was one of the Greek fans, and they were like having a discussion about what should the new stadium be called, like who should it be named after. I'm thinking we kind of all have an idea. I'm thinking, to me the obvious is naming it Mimi's Domazo Stadium. But I wanted to see if you guys had any opinions on like who else we could possibly name the stadium after.
I think Adonias is a great option. We how do you pick between Vilmaz and Adoniadis? Like, they both same era, big contributions to the club. Obviously, Vilmaz has, his own records and accolades for the club, but I think the fact that, and this is not nothing is to undermine Mimi, but the fact that Adonias is a living legend still, is, I think, a huge factor. Just hearing him, and this is a little recency bias, obviously, because it's coming off of this video, but hearing him say stuff like, "I hope God keeps me healthy to, be able to see and be in the stadium and experience it," just kind of solidified it for me. Like, I don't think, yeah, I don't think you could go wrong with that.
Yeah, I mean, take a name out of a hat and pick. I mean, both have their cases, but like Alex said, a living legend is something big, and for him to be able to, God willing, witness it, and be there for it would be just, you know, something out of this world. Not only for him, but for us as fans too. Him being able to be there and explain, like we said in the interview, just hearing it in his voice and seeing the joy and the passion he has for the club and stuff just kind of speaks volumes. But I mean, like we said, you can't go wrong with either or. Um, but remains to be seen. It might be a third name or just something completely different at this point. We don't even know.
Interestingly enough, and might be reading a little too much into this, but during that short video, he did say, he said stuff like, "We want Votanikos to be the biggest and best stadium in Greece," using specifically "we." So again, he was obviously, you know, not hired. I don't mean hired to do the video, but called upon to do the video. But he easily, if it's just his own words, he easily could have not said "we," but he did say "we." So I'm not saying that means anything specifically. I'm just curious what his role is in the, kind of current zeitgeist of the club going forward, of the future next 2, 3 years, if it's going to be that the timeline of the stadium. He echoed a lot of the same things that Alafuso said, which I don't think is a coincidence. It wasn't verbatim the same, but kind of similar things. He talked highly of the area. He talked highly of the stadium being kind of uh, under the base of the Acropolis, something that Alafuza also highlighted. So yeah, I just think the word choice of we and stuff like that was interesting.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, Andoniadis is like my close second for sure. When I was looking at the list, I saw like a lot of people saying Mimis Domazos, just because whenever you talk to like any old timer Greek, they're like, especially like when I talk to my papu, he's a PAOK fan. He's like, you should have seen Domazos play. Everybody. So when I think of that, I think of Domazos, but Andoniadis, like, of course, thank God he's alive. So they're able to have him into the video and everything. But I also, to me, maybe I'm reading into it, but maybe that's also like a foreshadowing, like, hey, you know what? We're maybe planning on naming the stadium after Andoniadis. I mean, you can't go wrong. I mean, the only person to beat him out of the golden shoe that year against Ajax was Gerd Mueller. So I mean that says it all. I mean how insane during a time when Panathinaikos was like barely becoming a professional side. Like incredible. He was the top scorer for Panathinaikos going to that European Cup final. Like the guy has pedigree. Absolutely insane. And so yeah, Andoniadis Stadium definitely has a nice ring to it for sure. Um, but yeah, we'll see. I just kind of wanted to present it. I saw it was a cool little conversation amongst the Greek Panathinaikos fans on X. Um, let's see. Anything else on FC, you guys, before we move on to basketball that you wanted to add? Looks like that's all for our FC then. Quickly heading over to basketball. Interesting up and down week for Panathinaikos BC. Finally, after the acquisition of the Manimal, we taste our first defeat. Panathinaikos lost to Valencia, unfortunately. Valencia is just one of those sides. The Spanish teams are always those sides that kind of are a thorn in our side when we play them. Um, we ended up going down to them. They never really went away, even when we were able to kind of go up against them. Hadam after the game really like went in on Yurtsevin and even Kenneth Farid for not having the best performance. I guess it's only fair after he was giving Kenneth Farid his flowers. I guess after having a bad game, you gotta kind of stick it to him. That's the kind of coach that Adaman is, as we've seen. Um, did you guys want to comment anything on what you saw in the game in particular?
Not really. I mean, just finally touched earth. We were on a good run, but that's the way the game is. Basketball's a game of runs, and whether it's the game itself or results over time, you know, it wasn't a great game. I mean, I know Ataman called them out, but I think overall, I don't think there was anyone that really played all that well. I think we just got kind of manhandled, and there weren't any bright moments where, like you said, Valencia was letting us back into the game. It was kind of going to be one of those days. So,
I don't know. I was like I agree and I disagree, Alki, and I mostly agree, but the small part of me that disagrees is that it felt like in that fourth quarter we were not going to lose the game. We were coming back. I think we had it within 3 points at one point. Yeah, it was 77-74 at one point, and it just felt like it was going to flip at that point. Shorts made a big shot, just an open three. Nunn had a couple big shots, but then he just went cold like just a couple minutes later. I don't know. It in the moment I was like, this is only gonna go our way. And then we just kind of didn't build off of that momentum that we had going for I think a good part of that fourth quarter. And then they just like you said, it's a game of runs, and then they just had their run to close it out.
yeah, it reminds me similar. It feels like we're kind of in an in between phase because it made me feel like what you're talking about right that then and there when we got within three. It felt like that feeling of like what our title winning season was not last year, the year before, where we'd see team go down in games and fight back and come back for wins. Whereas last year we'd see us fall behind and slowly kind of get back into it. It would see, but we'd see games get from like 20 and within 10 or 8, but never close enough to take the lead. And this season, it seems like we're kind of in between. We can get within well within single digits and maybe take over the game, but then, like you said, we'll hit that cold spot. And so, um, yeah, it felt better though to see them fight for getting that close in this game compared to like a lot of games last season. We saw us go down and try to get back into games. It was a rough watch. This one didn't seem as bad as they were like for a lot of games last season for
Yeah.
sure.
And like that 3 point difference that was at 77-74. That was at 3.5 minutes left. So plenty of time left, obviously, for it to go either way. But we just it was good to see us get back to 77-74, 3 points, but then the response from us afterwards was really bad. They scored uh nine, eight under unanswered points. Yeah, eight unanswered points after we had just made it a 3 point game, which just felt really against the run of play. Again, game of runs, but it just felt really against it after we had just made it a 3 point game. And you thought with 3.5 minutes left, I thought with 3.5 minutes left, it was just going to keep flipping.
Yeah, yeah, great points from both of you guys. It was a weird game because like they started off, it looked like they were like not gonna miss from three. Then we came back, built our way back, actually got a lead, and then yeah, we just kind of let it go. Versus like last season, like you mentioned, Alki, it was like we were just consistently going down 20 almost every game, and it's like having to come back,
Yeah.
and it's like you know, it was weird. And then this year, like after we got Fareed, now it's like okay, we're starting to take command more a little bit, take control of the game, but. For me, the real test is going to be how do we respond when we play Milan? When we play Milan this week on Thursday, we'll kind of see like how the team's going to respond really like mentality wise. Because again, like we touched earth now. Like all right, the Kenneth Fareed honeymoon is over. We finally lost the game. Let's see if it was just like a little thing or if it's an actual like systematic change. And it's going to be we're going to be away against Milan, so. That'll be a good one. Thankfully, though, again in the league, we got a huge win against Banionios, 110-66. Huge win. Of course, the big talk was Rogavopoulos, 40 points, breaking the Greek league record, 13 threes. Um, Absolutely insane. We saw the locker room going crazy, Juancho going around him. We saw Toliopoulos messing with Rogavopoulos. So it's cool. It's good to see guys like that shine. Hopefully, you know, Ataman's gonna kind of reward him for that and play him against Milan some heavier minutes. But we'll see. We'll see how things go. Again, we have the Milan game coming up, and then on Saturday we have the Ike game in the league. So, two toughish games for us to kind of see where the mentality is and where our form's actually at. Do you guys want to add anything onto BC before we close this off?
No, I mean, I think the Milan game should be good. I think we match up really well to them. I think last game, it's been a while since we last played him, but I think we played him pretty well. But with the midweek game, the league game, it's nice to see like a lot of the guys get just some good, well-rested minutes. Rogavopoulos, unfortunately, he did play heavy minutes, but we'll see if Ataman does reward him. Um, but yeah, just build off that league win and get back to winning ways is all we really want.
Nice. Yeah. Alex, anything you want to add?
No, I think just back to the Fareed thing. I think the a good part of the reason why we couldn't close it out or couldn't flip the score against Valencia was that we really struggled with the rebounding that game. Farid has obviously been the huge help in that category. We've obviously been hurt by not having a real center for a long time. Him coming in, real center, helped the rebounding, second chance points in the paint, offensive defensive rebounding. Um, and I think I just had it here. He only had 3 rebounds. He played limited minutes that game, but I think in almost every game that he's been with us, he's had double digit rebounds, which obviously has been the difference. No one against Valencia had double digit rebounds, not him, not anyone, and that kind of just feels the difference between that game and the other games, which we're on a really good streak since he came. We pointed it out last time. We had, 5, 6 wins in a row or something since he had come. That's not a coincidence. And him putting up 3 rebounds and us losing is obviously also not a coincidence.
Yeah, well said. Well said, 100%. And yeah, I think part of it was also with Yurtseven coming in. I think Ataman wanted to kind of get his minutes up and get him up and running. But yeah, we saw when Yurtseven was playing heavier minutes before Farid came, how we played. Yeah, it's kind of obvious there. I my hope, because again, I don't know if you guys remember with Yurtseven, they were saying that by December they were going to reevaluate his contract. So if we're able to find another good rebounding big and just replace Yurtseven with him, I wouldn't complain. So we'll see. We'll see what's on the market, what our scouts come up with. Um, and again, going forward, I'm not too concerned about BC. Milan game will be a nice test. But that's all I got for us today, you guys. Thanks for listening in. If you guys aren't already, please follow us on Instagram at PAO Fans International. Also on X. We're also on Facebook as well. Please be sure to give us a 5-star review on Spotify. And next time, the Australians will have the podcast episode. See you guys.
Peace.